What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video we're going to talk about doing some more complex queries in Firebase, which will allow us to retrieve specific documents based on certain criteria. In this specific example, we're going to be setting up the past trips here, where you'll notice all these trips are in the past, which means that the trip would have already happened. You can see the end date here is all a date in the past. Today is actually September 5th, so these are all quite in the past. If you go back to the home view, you can see we do have more trips in our app right here. Two of them with Miami and New York are going to be in the future, so they are not showing up in this list. So basically all this is going to be doing is filtering out those documents to get us the documents with dates that are in the past. But I'll show you how you can also use these where clauses basically to filter anything you want. If you wanted to just get trips with the name of Boston, you could do that. Or, as I'll show you in the example, if you wanted just trips with a car, I'll show you how to do that. So let's get started. Let's get started by actually updating this Explore icon here and this page to be a past trips view. So this is pretty simple. All of this is building on what we have built already. So if you're lost on any parts of what's going on in the app as I'm showing it, everything that you see here has been covered in previous videos, so you should be able to find that on the channel. The Explore page, if we go into our views, our lib views here, you'll be able to find the navigation view, and the Explore page is just, the way that we actually set this up is it's just a plain, basically an empty container widget with the color here, and this was kind of like placeholder. These are kind of placeholder widgets, so we are going to use the past trip page, which at one point we had set up and then we removed it. So we're going to delete the Explore page completely, and then we're going to rename this pages view, or we're going to rename this pages file to be the past trip view. So move that into the views folder, and then it's not actually going to let us rename it because we have a reference to it right here. So let's just go ahead and remove this reference. And now we can rename this by doing a refactor rename. And we're going to call this now the past trips view. And now that that's refactored, we want to call this actually the past trips view, because that kind of is how we've been naming everything so far. You'll notice this is orange, so once this is changed, it should change to orange. We're going to want to put that past trips view here as our second, this past trips view class. We're going to want to put right here, which this again is just the list of the tabs that we have down here in our tab navigation. So this is not imported, but if we click on that, it will import that past trips view file that we just renamed and created. So now if you save and rerun, you'll see if you click on the Explore, it is going to be that orange background, which is this past trips view. So let's just change the name and icon of that. If you scroll down in the navigation view a little bit, you'll see where we have Explore, and we can just write past trips instead. And instead of using the Explore icon, let's use the history icon so it looks a bit more like a past trip thing. All right, that looks good. So now we have a file set up where we can make our actual past trips list here. So the list view that we're going to use for this is we want to essentially use the same list view builder that we're using down here. And instead of rewriting all the code to build this out, we actually want to extract this card, this trip card, as a widget itself. So this is already kind of done in a way, but it's not fully reusable yet. So we're going to open up the home view, and we're going to find where we have that trip card. The show homepage with trips is what is loaded right now. So you can see we have a stream builder here, and this is going to build a trip card. So build trip card is actually probably where the card exists. So there's this whole widget here that basically builds out that card. So what we're going to do is we're going to just move this widget into a file of its own, and that way we'll be able to import this file. It's just this widget into different views. So for example, this will be one view, this home view will be one view that we'll use it in, and then we'll also use it in that past trips view. So we do already have a folder for widgets, so let's just create a new Dart file here. And we can call this the trip card. And then within here, we're just going to paste that entire function build trip card. Now we are going to need to import a few things here to get this working. Mainly as material, we're going to need to import, and then we're also going to need to import trip because it references our trip model. And since we're using the document snapshot, we're also going to need Cloud Firestore. Google Fonts as well because we are changing the font within the cards, and the date format as well. Finally, this trip view link, which is the detailed trip view, is also going to need to be imported. So that's an easy way to import them all. That looks good now. If we go back into our home view, we can actually delete this. And now you'll notice that where we were calling this, that doesn't work now. So all we have to do to fix that is to import that new widget package that we just created, which is called trip card. And now we have access to the build trip card. Potentially later we can modify these trip cards for, to look slightly differently if it is a past trip, a current trip, or an upcoming trip, and that can all easily be done within the actual trip card file now itself. So that's a little bit of a refactor there. Quickly going over this though, the card is pretty simple. It basically is just taking a trip object, which just has all the information on trip, and then it's displaying it in this layout here. So it's pretty simple. It is just a card inkwell. So the inkwell means it's clickable. It's pretty much just a simple Flutter card. That is good. Now, if we go to the past trips, we're going to actually do something similar to what we're doing with this stream builder right here. So this right here is our home view, which is the stream builder right there. You'll notice that this is in a column with other information like the add and this block up here. So let's actually just copy this stream builder and paste it into we can keep the container here and give the container a child and then paste the stream builder right there. And now we're going to do some modifications. So first off, we have this function here, which is getting all the trips, which are all of these trips right here. We actually are going to create a new function. We're actually going to create a new function in this file that's going to get just the past trips. But let's go ahead and look at this function that is getting all of the trips, because we're just going to modify that. That is this function right here, which is going to return a stream of essentially of all the trips. So we're going to paste that in right here. And because we're going to be using Cloud Firestore, we do need to import that package, and provider is also going to need to be imported as well. So this function here is going to be returning a query snapshot stream of the Firebase data. So really you can see it's calling snapshot at the end here, which is basically getting a snapshot based on these parameters. So we are essentially already making a query to get this stuff. And the query is, let me show you in Firestore because it will be a little bit easier to see. The query here is, so our user data is our collection. So you can see we're using the collection as the first thing called user data. Then we're getting the document by the UID, and the UID we're defining up here, which is just the current user's UID. And the way we have our data structured, these are all the user's UIDs here. This, I believe, is the user that I'm on right now. And then we're going into the trips collection. So you can see trips is right here. And then there's 5 trips, and each one of those trips is going to be pulled right now, and we're just ordering by the start date. So you'll see all 5 of these trips are going to be showing, and then it just has all the trip data right there. So that is what this is doing. How we are going to change this, modify this, so that we're only getting the past trips. So we're going to look at this parameter here called end date, and we're going to check if this date is earlier than today. So if it's earlier than the current date, then that means that this trip is passed. So in this case, for this trip, the Ashburn, Virginia one, this date is passed because it is now September 5th, and this is in May 3rd. So to do this is actually very simple. All we have to do is add a where clause, and we would do this before the order by. So we want, after any collection, you can add this where clause. So we could we would do it right here. So it's going to be where, and then we're going to name the field that we want to be making the search by, which is called end date. And the way that you write that is important. It has to look the same as it looks in Firestore. And then we're just going to use the end date, and we're going to check that it is less than. So if you type is, you'll see all the options that you have for when you're making a where query in Firebase. So we could do is equal to, is greater than or equal to, less than, or less than and equal to. So we want to use less than or equal to. So we're basically going to be checking if the end date is less than, so that means if it's before, or if it's equal to the current date. So to get the current date in Firebase, we can just use datetime.now. And this line right here is basically all you need to filter out all of these. So you notice all 5 of them are here right now. And when we save this and go to past trips, now there should only be 3 of them. All right, so there is actually a limitation with using an order by and a where. And this limitation is really when we have a where we're comparing it to see if it's less than or equal to. So if we're doing that, we need to order by either the same parameter as what we're checking the less than or equal to, meaning end date, or we can just remove it. So we can order by the end date, but we cannot order by the start date since we're using the where clause on the end date. So if you save that and you order by the end date, it will work. But again, if that was the start date, it wouldn't work. So we can order by the end date here. I think that's fine because it'll kind of give us all these end dates are actually the same. So it is a bit hard to tell, but let me change one in Firestore. So I'll change the Ashburn one to be the 6th. And now you can see the 6th goes down to the bottom. So it is going to order by that end date now. All right, so if we want to add a title up here, like past trips, to kind of give more of a title on this page, or actually you can add any other widget up there, we can easily change this container to have its main child be a column. And then within this column, we can have just, a text field up at the top. And this can just say past trips. And we can give it a little bit of style. And we'll give it a font size of 20. Now, this stream builder, if you run this, you'll notice the stream builder is actually not going to be there. So the reason for that is the stream builder, if it's in a column like this, is going to need to be wrapped in an expanded widget. And that is going to give it its height. So you can see now it's wrapped in the expanded widget, so it looks pretty good there. Now, a couple other things I'll tell you. If you wanted to make a more complex query, so this is obviously just searching by the date, but if you wanted to, in your app, have a couple parameters on this, it's pretty easy to do that as well. So you notice we have these 3 right here. If you wanted to just have past trips that were by car, it's easy to add any other parameter there with another where clause. So the field that holds the car value or the plane value or other is actually called travel type. And you can see that again, you can see that right here, travel type equals plane. So if we wanted to get just the travel types that were equal to the car, it's all lowercase car. That would be how you get that. So now our past trips are only going to be where the end date is less than or equal to now, and it's by car. If we took out this line here, I believe we have more than one car one. So yeah, we have 2 car ones, but now you'll see this one is in the future and this one's in the past. So it is pretty easy to just add as many of these where clauses as you need, and then using the combination of less than, equal to, greater than, or is less than, greater than, or equal to. Essentially, you can get kind of whatever you are desiring in terms of getting back your data. That is just an example. We're not actually going to do that. I don't actually want that on this page. So yeah, overall, you can use these where clauses on any collection when you're looking up when you're looking up data in Firestore. And basically how that works is within this trips collection, we're looking for documents, and then this where clause is basically going to filter out documents that meet this criteria. And if they do meet that criteria, then they'll be returned in the snapshot. All right, that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you found that useful. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Ciao for now.